I stood in the kitchen, the phone trembling in my hand, my son's voice crackling through the line like a distant storm. "Mom, I'm sorry, but Claire doesn't want you at the baby shower." The words sliced through me, sharper than any knife I'd ever wielded in this house, where I'd raised him, where I'd bandaged his scraped knees and celebrated his every milestone. Claire, my daughter-in-law, had drawn a line in the sand, and I was on the wrong side of it. I tried to speak, but my throat tightened, betraying me. "It's not personal," Daniel continued, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "She just wants it to be. Her people. Her people. Not me. Not his mother." I managed a week, I understand, before hanging up. But I didn't understand. Not at all. The kitchen was silent, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Sunlight streamed through the window, mocking the darkness swelling inside me. I'd spent months imagining that baby shower me first grandchild, the tiny life I'd already begun to love. I'd pictured myself there, smiling, helping, being part of it. But Claire had shut me out, and the sting of rejection burned deeper than I could have imagined. I sank into a chair, staring at the empty table where we used to share Sunday dinners. Back when Daniel and I were a team, before Claire came into our lives and everything changed. It wasn't always like this. When Daniel first brought Claire home, I tried to love her. She was poised, beautiful, with a laugh that filled the room. But there was always something guarded about her, a wall I couldn't breach. I'd catch her watching me, her eyes sharp, calculating, as if I were an obstacle to be navigated. Over time, small slights piled up, comments about my cooking, my house, my old-fashioned ways. I swallowed them, for Daniel's sake. But this was different. This was a deliberate wound, a public humiliation. I wasn't just excluded. I was erased. The idea came to me that night, as I lay awake, the hurt festering into something sharper, something dangerous. If Claire wanted to play gatekeeper, I'd show her I could play too. I'd throw my own baby shower. Not just any show or a grand one. A rival event that would outshine hers in every way. It would be my way of reclaiming my place, of showing her that I wasn't invisible. But it wasn't enough to simply compete. There had to be something more. Something that would make her feel the weight of what she'd done. A shocking surprise. One that would force her to confront the truth she'd buried. I began planning the next morning, my hands steady as I wrote lists, made calls, and envisioned every detail. The venue would be my backyard, transformed into a wonderland of flowers, lights, and elegance. I'd invite everyone, neighbors, old friends, even Daniel's childhood buddies who still called me Mom. I'd make it a celebration of family, of love, of everything Claire thought she could take from me. But the surprise, that was the key. It had to be perfect. Something that would unravel her carefully curated facade. I didn't know what it was yet, but I trusted it would come to me. Revenge, I learned, has a way of whispering its own answers. Days turned into weeks, and my plan took shape. I poured my heart into every detail, from the hand-stitched tablecloths to the catered menu that would rival a wedding feast. I told myself it was for Daniel, for the grandchild I'd yet to meet. But deep down, I knew it was for me. It was my way of fighting back, of proving I still mattered. Claire's shower was set for a Saturday, and I scheduled mine for the same day, an hour earlier. Let her guests choose, I thought. Let them see whose love was stronger. The closer the day came, the more I felt the weight of what I was doing. This wasn't just a party. It was a declaration. I was drawing a line of my own, and I wasn't sure what would happen when we all crossed it. I caught glimpses of Claire and Daniel around town, her hand on his arm, his smile strained. Did he know what she'd done? Did he care? The questions gnawed at me, but I pushed them aside. I had to focus. The surprise was still forming in my mind, a shadow taking shape. It would be something from our past, something Claire thought she'd buried. I just needed to find it. As I hung fairy lights in the backyard, I thought of my late husband, Tom. He'd always known how to calm my storms, how to remind me who I was. If he were here, he'd probably tell me to let this go, to forgive. But Tom wasn't here, and the ache of his absence only fueled my resolve. This wasn't just about Claire. It was about all the losses I'd endured, all the times I'd been pushed aside. This time, I'd fight back. This time, I'd win. The night before the shower, I stood in the backyard, the air thick with the scent of jasmine. The tables were set, the flowers arranged, the stage ready. My heart raced, not with fear, but with something else: anticipation. Maybe, or the thrill of what was to come. I'd found the surprise. Or rather, it had found me. A letter, tucked away in an old box. Its words a secret Claire had kept from Daniel. From all of us. Tomorrow, I'd unveil it, and everything would change. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I knew one thing: I wasn't invisible anymore. The morning of the rival showers dawned gray, the sky heavy with clouds that mirrored the storm inside me. I woke early, my body buzzing with a strange mix of dread and determination. The backyard was a masterpiece: white roses cascading over trellises, tables draped in soft linens, and a string quartet tuning their instruments in the corner. It was beautiful, but it felt like a battlefield. I dressed carefully, choosing a deep blue dress that Tom always said brought out my eyes. I wanted to look strong, unshakable, even if my heart was anything but. Guests began arriving by noon, their faces a mix of curiosity and warmth. Old friends hugged me tightly, whispering how good it was to see me, how excited they were for Daniel's baby. I smiled, playing the gracious host, but my eyes kept darting to the gate, waiting for Daniel. I hadn't told him about my shower. Not directly. I'd let word spread through mutual friends, knowing it would reach him. Would he come? Would he choose me over Claire? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I pushed it down, focusing on the task at hand. The letter weighed heavily in my pocket, its edges worn from years of hiding. I'd found it by chance, buried in a box of Tom's old things, a note from Claire to her sister, written years ago, before she and Daniel were married. Its words were a confession, a betrayal that could shatter everything. I hadn't decided how I'd reveal it, but I knew it would be today, in front of everyone. The thought made my stomach churn, but it also filled me with a strange power. For once, I held the truth, and Claire would have to face it. As the quartet played, I mingled, pouring champagne and sharing stories of Daniel's childhood. The guests laughed, their voices warm, but I felt like an actor in a play, my real self hidden behind a mask of smiles. Then I saw him, Daniel, standing at the gate, his face pale, his suit slightly rumpled. My heart leapt, then sank. He was alone. No Claire. Had she forbidden him from coming? Or had he chosen to defy her? I walked toward him, my steps steady despite the tremor in my chest. "Mom," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "What is this?" I gestured to the tables, the flowers, the guests. "It's a celebration, Daniel. For your baby. For our family." His eyes searched mine, and I saw the conflict there: love, guilt, confusion. "Claire's shower is happening right now," he said. "I didn't know. I didn't think you'd do this." The words stung, but I held my ground. "You're here now?" I said. "That's what matters." He stayed, though I could tell he was torn. He greeted old friends, smiled at their congratulations, but his eyes kept drifting to his phone, no doubt waiting for a message from Claire. I watched him, my son, caught between two worlds, and I wondered if I'd pushed him too far. But there was no turning back now. The surprise was coming, and it would change everything. I just needed the right moment. As the afternoon wore on, more guests arrived, some I hadn't expected. Claire's mother, Evelyn, showed up, her face a mix of surprise and disapproval. "This is quite the event, Margaret," she said, her tone clipped. I smiled, offering her a glass of champagne. "I wanted to honor my grandchild," I said. "Everyone's welcome here." She took the glass, but didn't drink, her eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for a reason to leave. I wondered if she knew about the letter, if she'd been part of Claire's secrets. The quartet shifted to a softer melody, and I took the stage, a small platform I'd set up near the rose trellis. The guests turned to me, their faces expectant. My heart pounded, the letter burning in my pocket. This was it. The moment I'd been planning. The moment I dreaded. I cleared my throat, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. "Thank you all for coming," I began. "Today is about family, about love, about truth." I paused, my eyes finding Daniel's. He looked uneasy, sensing something was coming. I spoke of Daniel's childhood, of the love Tom and I had poured into him, of the joy I felt knowing his child would carry that legacy. The guests smiled, nodded, but I could feel the tension building. I reached into my pocket, my fingers brushing the letter. "But family isn't just about love," I continued. "It's about honesty. And sometimes, the truth hurts." I pulled out the letter, holding it up for all to see. Daniel's eyes widened, and Evelyn gasped, her glass slipping from her hand. The crowd went silent, waiting for what came next. The air felt heavier as I held the letter aloft, its worn edges catching the dim light. Every eye was on me, the string quartet's music fading into an eerie hum. Daniel took a step forward, his face pale, his voice barely a whisper. "Mom, what are you doing?" I wanted to stop, to spare him, but the hurt inside met years of slights. The ban from the shower, the sense of being erased pushed me forward. This wasn't just about Claire anymore. It was about all of us, about the truths we'd buried to keep the peace. I unfolded the letter, my hands steady despite the tremor in my soul. "This is a letter Claire wrote to her sister. Years ago," I said, my voice carrying over the silent crowd. "Before she married Daniel. Before she became part of our family." I glanced at Evelyn, who stood frozen, her face a mask of dread. She knew. She had to. I began to read, my voice clear, each word a dagger. "I don't love him, Sarah. I never did. But he's my way out, my ticket to a better life. I'll play the part, but don't expect me to feel it." A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Daniel's face crumpled, his eyes glistening with shock and betrayal. I wanted to run to him, to hold him like I did when he was a boy. But I couldn't stop now. The truth was out, and it demanded to be heard. "She wrote more," I continued, my voice softer now, almost breaking. "About how she'd keep up the act, how she'd make sure no one suspected, how she'd use Daniel to get what she wanted." I stopped, the weight of the words settling over us all like ash. Evelyn stepped forward, her voice sharp. "That's enough. Margaret, you've made your point." But I wasn't done. I turned to Daniel, my eyes pleading with him to understand. "I found this by accident. Daniel, I didn't want to believe it. But I couldn't let you live a lie. You deserve the truth. He shook his head, his hands clenched into fists. Why? Mom. Why like this? The pain in his voice cut deeper than anything Claire had ever done. I'd wanted to hurt her, but I hadn't meant to break him. The guests were whispering now, their eyes darting between me, Daniel, and Evelyn. I felt the weight of their judgment, but also their curiosity. They wanted to know what came next, and so did I. I folded the letter, slipping it back into my pocket. I threw this shower because I love you, I said, my voice trembling. Because I wanted to celebrate your child, our family. But I couldn't do it with lies hanging over us. I'm sorry. The words felt hollow, inadequate against the devastation I'd unleashed. Daniel turned and walked away, his shoulders hunched, disappearing through the gate. The guests parted for him, their murmurs growing louder. Evelyn followed, her face a storm of anger and fear. I stood alone on the stage, the fairy lights twinkling mockingly above me. Had I gone too far? Had I lost him for good? The thought made my knees weak, but I forced myself to stay upright. This was my truth, my justice. But at what cost? The rest of the shower passed in a blur. Some guests stayed, offering awkward condolences, while others slipped away, no doubt eager to spread the gossip. I moved through the motions, thanking people, cutting the cake, but my heart wasn't in it. All I could see was Daniel's face, the betrayal in his eyes. I'd wanted to expose Claire, to make her pay for shutting me out, but I hadn't anticipated how it would feel to see my son broken. Revenge, I realized, was a double-edged sword. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, the letter on the table before me. I hadn't read the rest of it. To the crowd there were details too personal, too raw. Claire had written about her fears, her insecurities, her desperate need to escape her past. It wasn't an excuse, but it was a glimpse into her heart, one I hadn't expected. I wondered if I'd misjudged her, if there was more to her story than I'd allowed myself to see. But it was too late for that now. The damage was done. I didn't sleep. Instead, I replayed the day, every word, every look. I thought of Tom, how he'd always believed in second chances. He'd have been ashamed of me today. I knew that. But he wasn't here to guide me, and I'd let my pain lead instead. As dawn broke, I made a decision. I couldn't undo what I'd done, but I could try to make it right. I had to find Daniel, to talk to him, to see if there was any way to salvage what we had. The letter had been my weapon, but maybe it could also be my bridge to redemption. The next morning, I drove to Daniel's house, my hands gripping the steering wheel as if it could anchor me. The letter sat in my purse, a silent accusation. I hadn't planned what I'd say, only that I needed to see him, to look into his eyes and beg for forgiveness. The house loomed ahead, a modern structure Claire had chosen, all sharp angles and glass. It felt cold, foreign, nothing like the cozy home I'd raised him in. I parked, my heart pounding, and walked to the door. Claire answered, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. For a moment, we just stared at each other, two women caught in a war neither of us had fully understood. Is Daniel here? I asked, my voice softer than I'd intended. She nodded, stepping aside. He's in the living room. But Margaret, don't make this worse. Her voice was brittle, like she was holding herself together by sheer will. I nodded, stepping past her, the weight of her words settling over me. Daniel sat on the couch, staring at the floor, a half-empty coffee mug in his hands. He didn't look up as I approached. Daniel, I said, sitting across from him. I need to talk to you. He didn't respond. but his jaw tightened, a sign he was listening. I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you. He finally looked at me, his eyes raw with pain. Protecting me? By humiliating me in front of everyone. By reading that letter. His voice broke, and I felt my own tears rising. I didn't know what else to do. I said, Claire banned me from the shower. She pushed me out of your life. Out of our family. I was angry. Daniel. I was hurt. He shook his head, his voice low. You could have talked to me. You didn't have to destroy everything. I reached for the letter, pulling it from my purse. There's more to it, I said, holding it out. I didn't read the rest. It's not all what you think. He stared at the letter, then at me, his expression unreadable. Slowly, he took it, his fingers brushing mine. He unfolded it, his eyes scanning the words I hadn't shared. The parts about Claire's fears, her regrets, her hope that she could learn to love him. I watched his face, searching for a sign of what he felt. When he finished, he set the letter down, his hands shaking. Why didn't you show me this first? He asked. Why did you have to make it a spectacle? I didn't have an answer. Not a good one. I was wrong. I said finally. I let my pain take over. I wanted her to hurt like I did. But I didn't mean to hurt you. He leaned back, closing his eyes. I don't know what to do. Mom. I don't know what to believe anymore. Claire appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed, her face a mix of anger and exhaustion. You should go, she said, her voice steady but cold. I wanted to argue, to stay, but I saw the look in Daniel's eyes: confusion, betrayal, love, all tangled together. I stood, my legs unsteady. I'll give you time, I said. But I'm here. Daniel. I'll always be here. He didn't respond, and I left, the door closing softly behind me. The drive home was a blur, my mind replaying every moment, every mistake. I'd wanted justice, but all I'd done was widen the rift between us. At home, I sat in the backyard, the remnants of the shower still scattered around wilted flowers. Empty glasses, a stage that now felt like a gallows. I thought of the letter, of Claire's words. She hadn't loved him then, but did she now? And did it matter? When I'd turned her confession into a weapon. I spent the next few days in a fog, waiting for Daniel to call, to text, to give me some sign he hadn't given up on me. But the phone stayed silent, and the silence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. I started cleaning up the backyard, packing away the decorations, trying to reclaim some sense of normalcy. But every rose, every ribbon, reminded me of what I'd done. I'd wanted to be seen, to be valued, but all I'd done was push my son further away. Then, one evening, there was a knock at the door. My heart leapt, hoping it was Daniel. But it was Evelyn, Claire's mother, her face softer than I'd ever seen it. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded, letting her in, my stomach twisting with unease. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd heard the news that started this all. Claire told me everything, Evelyn said. About the letter, about why she wrote it. She was young, Margaret, scared. She made mistakes, but she loves him now. She's trying to make it right. I listened, my heart heavy with guilt. Evelyn's words were a mirror, reflecting my own mistakes back at me. I didn't know, I said. I thought she was trying to take him from me. Evelyn reached across the table, her hand resting on mine. She's not your enemy. Margaret. She's just human. Like you. Her words hit me like a wave. And for the first time, I saw Claire not as a threat, but as a person, flawed and struggling, just like me. Evelyn's visit left me reeling, her words echoing in my mind long after she'd gone. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair where she'd been, her hand on mine, her voice gentle but firm. Claire was human, flawed, like me. I'd spent so long seeing her as the villain, the one who'd stolen my son, my place, my family. But now, I saw the cracks in my own narrative, the way my anger had blinded me to her truth. I'd wanted revenge, but what I'd really needed was understanding. I spent the next morning walking through the backyard, the remnants of the shower now cleared away. The garden felt empty, like my heart. I thought of Daniel, of the pain in his eyes when I'd read the letter. I'd wanted to protect him, but I'd only pushed him further into a storm of doubt. I had to fix this. Not for Claire, not for myself, but for him. For the family we still had a chance to be. I drove back to their house, my hands trembling as I parked. This time, I didn't bring the letter. I didn't need it. What I needed was honesty. Not just about Claire's past, but about my own mistakes. I knocked, and Daniel opened the door, his face weary but not closed off. "Can we talk?" I asked. He nodded, stepping aside. Claire was in the kitchen, her back to us, chopping vegetables with a rhythm that felt like defiance. She didn't turn, but I knew she was listening. "Daniel," I began, sitting across from him at the dining table. "I was wrong. I let my hurt take over, and I used that letter to hurt Claire, to hurt you. I thought I was fighting for our family, but I was tearing it apart." He looked at me, his eyes searching, and I saw a flicker of the boy he used to be, the one who trusted me completely. "Why didn't you just talk to me, Mom?" he asked. "Why did it have to be like that?" I swallowed, the truth bitter. Because I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of being nothing in your life. My voice broke, and I saw Claire pause, her knife still. "I've been so focused on what I was losing. I didn't see what you were building. A family. A future. And I tried to destroy it." Daniel's eyes softened, but he didn't speak. Claire turned then, her face unreadable, but her eyes were wet. "I owe you an apology too, Claire," I said, forcing myself to meet her gaze. "I judged you without knowing you. I used your past against you, and that was wrong. I'm sorry." The words felt like stones, heavy but necessary. Claire set the knife down, her hands trembling. "You don't know me, Margaret," she said, her voice low. "But I don't hate you. I wanted to do this my way. The shower, the baby, everything. I didn't mean to push you out." We sat in silence, the weight of our words filling the room. Daniel reached for Claire's hand, then mine, linking us in a fragile chain. "I don't want to lose either of you," he said. "But we can't keep doing this. Fighting. Hiding things. We're going to be a family soon. We need to figure this out." His voice was steady, but I heard the plea beneath it. He was right. We had to do better for him. For the baby. For ourselves. Over the next hour, we talked. Really talked. Claire admitted she'd been scared of me, of my bond with Daniel, of not measuring up. I admitted my own fears, my grief over losing Tom, my struggle to find my place in their new life. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. For the first time, I saw Claire not as an enemy, but as a woman trying to navigate her own path, just as I was. Daniel listened, his face a mix of relief and exhaustion. And I realized how much he'd been carrying. Caught between us. When I left, the air felt lighter, like the storm clouds had finally parted. I didn't know if we'd ever be close, Claire and I, but we'd taken a step. A small one, but a step nonetheless. At home, I sat in the backyard, the roses still blooming despite everything. I thought of Tom, of how he'd always believed in redemption, in second chances. Maybe this was mine. Maybe I could still be the mother Daniel needed, the grandmother his child deserved. The next day, I started small. I sent Claire a text, offering to help with the nursery. To my surprise, she replied, inviting me over. When I arrived, she showed me the room pale blue walls, a crib half assembled, a pile of tiny clothes. We worked together, not speaking much, but the silence was different now. It wasn't hostile. It was tentative, hopeful. Daniel joined us, his smile cautious but real. For the first time in months, I felt like I belonged. The nursery became our neutral ground, a place where Claire and I could meet without the weight of the past pressing down on us. We painted walls, folded tiny onesies, and hung curtains, our movements careful but growing easier with each day. Daniel watched us, his relief palpable, though he didn't say much. I think he was afraid to jinx it. This fragile truce we'd built. I was too. But every shared glance, every small laugh, felt like a brick in a new foundation. One afternoon, as we sorted through baby books, Claire handed me a worn copy of Goodnight Moon. This was mine, she said, her voice soft. My mom read it to me every night. I took the book, my fingers tracing its faded cover. Daniel loved this one too, I said. Tom would do all the voices. We smiled. And for a moment, we weren't rivals. We were just two women who loved the same man, who wanted the best for his child. But healing wasn't linear. There were moments when old wounds flared, when Claire would snap at a suggestion, or I'd bristle at her tone. We were both learning, stumbling through this new dynamic. I thought of the letter often. Its words a reminder of how close we'd come to losing everything. I hadn't told Claire I'd kept it, that I still had it tucked away in a drawer. I wasn't sure why I hadn't destroyed it. Maybe I needed it as a reminder of my own capacity for cruelty, a warning to do better. One evening, Daniel invited me to dinner. It was the first time since the shower that we'd sat down together, just the three of us. The table was set simply, but there was care in it: candles, a vase of flowers, a meal Claire had cooked. We ate, talked, even laughed, though there was still a thread of tension beneath it all. After dessert, Claire cleared her throat, her hands twisting in her lap. Margaret, I want to say something, she began. I'm sorry too. For the shower. For making you feel like you didn't belong. I was wrong. Her words caught me off guard, their sincerity piercing the last of my defenses. Thank you, I said, my voice thick. I want us to be okay. Claire. For Daniel. For the baby. She nodded, her eyes glistening. Daniel reached for both our hands, his grip firm. We're going to be, he said. We have to be. In that moment, I believed him. I wanted to believe him. As the weeks passed, I found myself softening toward Claire. I noticed the way she touched her belly, the way her face lit up when she talked about the baby. I saw her vulnerability, her hope, and I realized how much I'd misjudged her. She wasn't perfect, but neither was I. We were both trying, both flawed, both human. I started to see the family we could, but not the one I'd lost, but the one we were building. One day, Claire asked me to go with her to a doctor's appointment. Daniel was stuck at work, and she didn't want to go alone. I agreed, my heart swelling with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Trust. In the waiting room, we sat side by side, flipping through magazines, making small talk. When the doctor called her name, she reached for my hand. "Come with me," she said. I followed, my chest tight with emotion. The ultrasound room was dim, the screen flickering to life as the technician moved the wand over Claire's belly. There it was, me grandchild, a tiny heartbeat pulsing in the grainy image. Claire's hand tightened around mine, and I felt tears prick my eyes. "That's our baby," she whispered, and I heard the love in her voice. The same love I'd felt for Daniel all those years ago. In that moment, I knew we'd be okay. Not perfect, but okay. When we left the clinic, Claire hugged me, her arms fierce. "Thank you," she said, "for being here." I hugged her back, the weight of the past lifting just a little. "I wouldn't be anywhere else," I said, and I meant it. The drive home was quiet, but it was a good quiet. The kind that comes when you've found your way back to each other. The baby was due in a month, and the house buzzed with anticipation. Claire and I fell into a rhythm. Planning, preparing, even joking about who the baby would look like. Daniel seemed lighter, his smiles more frequent, as if the storm between us had finally passed. I started to believe in redemption, not just for Claire and me, but for myself. I'd made mistakes, terrible ones, but I was trying to make them right. That had to count for something. One afternoon, while we were assembling a mobile for the crib, Claire paused, her hand resting on her belly. "Margaret," she said, her voice hesitant. "There's something I need to tell you." My stomach tightened, bracing for another blow, but her eyes were soft, not guarded. "That letter, I wrote it when I was lost. I didn't think I could love anyone. Not really. But I was wrong. I love Daniel. I love this baby. And I want you to be part of our lives." Her words hit me like a wave, washing away the last of my resentment. I reached for her hand, my voice thick. "I want that too, Claire. More than anything." We sat there, the mobile half finished, and I felt something shift inside me. The anger, the hurt, the need for revenge, they were still there. But they were quieter now, drowned out by something stronger. Hope. As the due date approached, I found myself reflecting on the past year. The shower, the letter, the pain I'd caused, it all felt like a lifetime ago. I'd wanted justice, but what I'd found was something better, a chance to rebuild. I started writing letters of my own, not to hurt, but to heal. Letters to Daniel, to Claire, to the baby. I wrote about my mistakes, my love, my dreams for our family. I didn't know if I'd ever share them, but writing them felt like a promise to myself, to be better. The night Claire went into labor, Daniel called me, his voice frantic but joyful. "It's time, Mom. Meet us at the hospital." I drove through the dark, my heart racing with excitement and fear. At the hospital, I found them in the waiting area, Claire gripping Daniel's hand, her face tight with pain but glowing with determination. I sat with them, holding Claire's other hand, whispering words of encouragement. When they wheeled her away, Daniel hugged me, his voice breaking. "I'm glad you're here, Mom." Hours later, I held my granddaughter, her tiny face scrunched and perfect. Claire was exhausted but smiling, Daniel beaming beside her. I looked at them, my son and his wife, and I saw a family not the one I'd imagined, but the one we'd become. I thought of the letter, still tucked away in my drawer. I'd destroy it. I decided. It had served its purpose, not as a weapon, but as a mirror, showing me who I could be if I let go of the pain. When I got home, I took the letter out, holding it over the kitchen sink. I struck a match, watching the flames curl around the edges, turning Claire's words to ash. It felt like a release, a final letting go. I didn't need it anymore. I had my family, my granddaughter, a future to build. The past could stay where it belonged. The first few weeks with the baby were a whirlwind of joy and exhaustion. I spent most days at Daniel and Claire's, helping with feedings, rocking the baby to sleep, marveling at her tiny fingers and wide, curious eyes. We named her Lily, after Tom's favorite flower, a choice that felt like a bridge between the past and the present. Claire and I grew closer, our conversations deeper, our silences warmer. We weren't just mother-in-law and daughter-in-law anymore. We were partners in this new adventure. One evening, as we sat on their porch, Lily asleep in my arms, Claire turned to me. "You know, I was terrified of you at first," she admitted, her voice soft. "You were so perfect." Daniel's mom, the one who raised him, who knew him better than anyone. I didn't think I could ever measure up. I laughed, surprising us both. "Perfect. Claire, I was a mess. I still am. I just hid it better." She smiled, and for the first time, I saw her as she was not a threat, but a woman finding her way, just like me. Daniel joined us, his face tired but content. "You two are something else," he said, shaking his head. "I thought I'd lost you both for a while there." I reached for his hand, squeezing it. "You'll never lose me," I said, "and I'm learning to share you." Claire laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight. "Good," she said, "because Lily's going to need all of us." As the months passed, our family found its rhythm. There were still moments of tension, of old hurts resurfacing, but we faced them together. I learned to listen, to ask instead of assume, to let Claire and Daniel lead while I found my place beside them. I thought often of Tom, of how he'd smile at us now, his family whole in a way I hadn't thought possible. I missed him, but I felt him in Lily's laugh, in the love we were building. One day, I brought over a photo album, filled with pictures of Daniel as a baby, of Tom and me, of the life we'd had. Claire and I sat together, flipping through it, laughing and crying as we shared stories. Daniel joined us, pointing out his favorite photos, his voice full of warmth. "You should make one for Lily," he said. "Both of you. Together." Claire and I looked at each other, nodding. It was a small thing, but it felt like a promising new story, written by all of us. Looking back, I see how close I came to losing everything. The shower, the letter, the revenge I'd craved, they were all part of a darkness I hadn't known I carried. But they led me here, to this moment, to a family I'd fought for and almost destroyed. Redemption isn't a single act. It's a journey, one I'm still on. But as I hold Lily, as I laugh with Claire, as I see the love in Daniel's eyes, I know it's a journey worth taking. We're not perfect, but we're together. And that's enough.